everyone. Welcome to Walk Worthy. I'm Erin.
And I'm Lindsey, and today we have a guest with us that we are going to be interviewing about her story. This is Lindsey Latta. We're so glad that she joined us. Her and her husband, Mike, have attended The Rock for about 9 years. They're very involved in the marriage ministry, and so we are going to hear a little bit about her story, what God has done in and her life, and kind of learn from that and praise the Lord with her in that. So let's get started, I guess.
Okay. Thank you guys for having me.
Yeah, welcome. Welcome to Walk Worthy.
Welcome. All right, so tell us a little bit about your story, how you even maybe got saved, and then kind of, I know we're going to talk about some of the trial of the past year, so we'll get to that too.
Yeah, so never really grew up in church. Kind of did the whole maybe Christmas, Easter kind of thing. And then just kind of started coming to The Rock, was invited. And so we started coming and basically went to the first women's retreat and got baptized up there, fought it for a little bit, and then, did it in a very, in the way I probably did not want to do it, which was in the lake.
Okay.
So, that was fun. So, yeah, it was good though. It was just kind of a huge growth and stepping stone of where Mike and I were in our relationship at the time and our marriage. So, was able to reconcile our marriage and come forth and stay married. We have 2 kids, and we still come to church, and we're very active in the marriage ministry because God saved our marriage wholeheartedly. So, we wouldn't be here without him. So
that's really cool.
Yeah, so that was huge. So yeah.
All right, 2 kids, married. How long have you been married?
13 years.
Okay, good job. Got math on that. Yeah. I was like, how long is it? Okay, well, this past year you have had, maybe even longer. I guess it was longer than the past year, but kind of some things came to a head. So can you tell us a little bit about some of the medical things that you've been going through? And
yeah, so I want to say I was maybe 6 months old.
Okay.
Found out, they heard that I had a heart murmur. Went in and seen that I had a bicuspid aortic valve, which basically means is when your aortic valve doesn't develop properly. Okay. You end up having, it should be like a peace symbol kind of looking like, and the 2 cusps were actually fused together. So I have a leaky valve. So eventually it will have to get replaced, So I have echoes all the time, every year, just to watch it. Got pregnant with Ethan, and my aorta started dilating during pregnancy. So I was monitored, had an assisted delivery. It stopped dilating in between both kids. Got pregnant with Kendall. Started dilating again and had another assisted delivery. And at that time, we were basically told, I don't know how much more your body can take of this, so you really need to stop having kids.
So what is the danger? I'm very ignorant as far as heart issues of your aorta dilating like that. What's the concern?
So it's basically like how it was explained to us is like a rubber band. So like it stretches underneath like blood pressure and stuff like that. So like think about like working out and like you're pumping weights and like you're exerting all the energy. Well, it's like opening and it's closing. So it's like they explained it like the more you stretch that rubber band, eventually it's going to bust. When your aorta busts, you die.
Right.
So, and it's quick, it's fast. Like there's no saving you. Yeah. So it's basically, obviously serious.
Right.
So, they just said they would recommend me not. So we decided, okay, I guess we're not going to have any more kids. That's just the end of the road. And then I don't remember how long after having Kendall right now. I would have to sit here and think about it, which is not worth it. But but my heart started dilating, or my aorta started dilating again on its own.
Okay.
So the doctors were like, that's a concern. Went to one doctor, did not like his response because it's who I had been going to, but I was also frustrated with where I was at. He was like, you basically cannot lift any more than 50 pounds and you can't do this and you can't do that. And I was like, well, that's silly, And so, anyway, through the entire process, we had been praying and trying to figure out, we were going to Saturday nights at church, And, you know, I was at church and I was just really heavy hearted and didn't know what to do anymore. Didn't know where to go. I wanted a second opinion, and family and friends did. Mike obviously wanted to as well. And I just said, Mike, I want God just to give me a direction of where we go. And we went to go pick up pizza right in Argentine. And a guy that we hadn't seen in so long that we showed him 4-H with was right there. The last time I knew, he was in military, and he actually was done and was going to school in cardiology.
Oh, wow.
And was just going into like meet with the head of cardiology that next week.
Okay.
And we were like, what are you doing? You know, caught up, and he tells us, and all of a sudden he's got me hooked up with this doctor
Wow.
at U of M. And I was just like,
That's so cool.
oh my gosh, you know, and it was like all of my answers, like it was just there. And so through multiple like ER visits of things that just kept going on, and my heart was racing, and then all of a sudden I was having these PVCs, which are premature ventricular contractions.
Okay.
They would continuously happen. So basically it's like where a heartbeat, well, your heart beats and then you get another heartbeat. So it feels like you're almost getting shocked every single time. So they continued. And I had those for quite a few years, just not at that extent, like that level. And then, yeah, we went and seen the doctor, and it was like perfect. Like he said, yep, you're going to need your valve replaced one day. I'm sure you've been told that, but your aorta is not getting any better, and you're put on a 30-pound weight restriction now. And I was like, what just happened to me? And he's like, no doing this, no doing that, no physical sports anymore. And I'm like,
that's hard.
and it was like a lot of things were just ripped away from me. I got a whole sheet of things I couldn't do anymore. And if anybody knows me, I'm very independent. I will do a lot of stuff myself, you know, like the kids, Mike will all do it, but like there isn't a one of us that, you know, won't be cutting up firewood or feeding animals or stuff like that. Like,
so that's kind of humbling and difficult to
Yeah.
be told you can't do things.
and at the time we had pigs, and the guy's like, I think the other doctor had set 50 pounds because it's a 50-pound bag of feed.
Yeah.
And I had told him I was carrying, you know, I'd carry 2 at a time, and he was like, do 1. And I was like, and then to be told that I now
Even
can't do
less.
a 1, that I was like, you're the worst. You know? So, and then he just basically said the words that solidified it all is, I'm not replacing your valve until it's needed, because the valve that God gave you is the best one for you. And for a doctor to recognize God was the creator of our bodies was just, I mean, Mike and I sat there and we were like, done deal. Like, perfect. You make the calls.
Yeah.
So, so just seeing God's hand and favor in all of that, ER visits going, and literally a whole room full of people while I'm having all these heart issues, getting escorted right back. You know, somebody just being there that we knew, and they were like, no, you're under our wing, and took care of us. And it's just like, it was just time and time again. God was just, you know, like renewing my faith in him constantly, just going, I've got you through this whole process, not knowing what I was going to then come across.
But it's, to me, I love that you talk about the Lord renewing your faith step by step, because I think there are moments that he builds our faith, even knowing that we're coming into a big battle, because we need to be able to look back on the things that he has done and the ways that he has provided, because those big moments and those big battles test our faith so much that if not for him being faithful and him providing, you know, what do you even have to draw back on? You know, that even in that he's faithful to be like, I've prepared you for this moment, even though it's hard.
Yeah.
So you have had heart issues for quite some time, but things kind of came to a head.
Yep. Well over a year ago,
Okay.
like a year and a half ago, I guess now. basically it was getting to the point where I went into the doctors, like, and I was like, I'm getting worse. My PVCs are getting uncontrollable. And I was like, I can't, like, I'm physically not functioning properly. And
What does that mean?
Yeah, what did that look like?
like I was taking naps daily, which I feel like was God's way of humbling me, because I was probably the biggest ridiculer of somebody taking a nap.
What do you need a nap for?
It's like, children need naps.
Are you a baby?
That's like,
So
That's
it was
hilarious.
a good way
Wow.
for me to be like, haha, joke's on you. Now you need naps daily.
Oh, man.
Yeah, so to be able to like just function. So that was really difficult because I would kind of, I'm watching a little boy, and so his nap time was my nap time. So it was becoming like everybody knew, like, don't call Lindsey between this time and this time because, you know, or somebody would answer, are you taking a nap right now? I'm laying down right now. Okay. So it was becoming known, which was probably hard to like, I think it was more hard probably because it was my pride that was being exposed in it all of being like, everybody knows my business right now.
How did it affect, like, your family, obviously dealing with your kids and things like that?
Yeah, so I think it was hard for the kids to watch me decline. Obviously, it was really hard for Mike because he could see where I was and then where I had came to, and the decline over the time, the process. I think it was probably hardest for me to watch the kids because they would be like, you know, we would be driving in the car and I literally just could not keep my eyeballs open and we'd have to go park in a parking lot and I'd be like, guys, give me 15, 20 minutes. I got to get a power nap. Like, I won't even, like, I just can't. It's like my brain feels like it's shutting down. Like, I just cannot function.
That's a little scary, too, if you're driving your kids and then you're feeling like you have to pull over to take a nap. It's that severe.
Yeah. Like, it just gets, I can't even explain. Like, I guess we all have PVCs is what I'm told, but severity-wise.
That's why I get tired sometimes, right? At 3 o'clock. I need the 3 o'clock nap.
Oh, I need this nap.
It's my heart.
Oh, my God.
Hey, you know, I'm an advocate for naps now.
Listen, I
need a
know.
nap, you take a
Seriously,
nap.
Winston Churchill took a nap every single day, so you're in good company. And he led Great Britain through World War II, so hey.
That's hilarious.
I really feel like they're well needed now.
Yes. Sometimes you just need a nap. Anyways, I know yours is definitely more extreme, but okay, so you were saying everyone kind of has them, but
some people feel them and some people don't. And so obviously mine was more on the severe end. The amount that I was having was almost 10% burden. So, I mean, my doctor was even doubting it, like, that I had that many. He was like, that's a lot. Like, you know, I don't know how many. So I ended up wearing a monitor, finding out, and they were like, yeah, that's a lot. Like, that candidate's for surgery. Wow. So I tried medications. They were trying to figure out, and I have very low blood pressure as well. So they put you on beta blockers, which can also decrease your blood pressure. So that was not going well because then it was adding other issues. And then there was some that they wouldn't even put me on because I was too young. Like, he was like, I wouldn't put you on unless you were like 80. And you're, you know, because your long-term effects are going to affect you, obviously, for longer.
So they discover you have this is becoming a quality of life issue, a serious problem. And what's the decision then?
So decision ends up meeting, okay, surgeon. Like, let's go meet with the surgeon, talk to him. So January last year, we had a video visit with him, and he met with us, and he's like, you're a great candidate for this. Like, you're obviously very sensitive to medications. You're obviously very in tune with your body. He's like, you know what's happening. So he's like, let's get you in for an appointment, get you in for surgery.
Which was a valve replacement, or what was the surgery?
No, that was to go in and actually do an ablation inside of my heart. So they'd find where the PVC is coming from, where it fires from, and they will do like a 3-second burn on it.
Okay.
And then follow up with another 3-second burn. Like they go very in small intervals because of its permanent damage to your heart.
Okay.
So obviously, you'd want to do the least amount of damage to your heart. So that was going to be the procedure. And I was like, absolutely, I'm all for it. Like, let's do it. I would rather it be fixed and I don't have to also be on medication or find one that's going to work or work one day and then not work the next. So yeah. And then November, not this last November, but over a year ago, I found out that my heart was enlarging. I also had 2 other valves that were leaking. So I was like, they were realizing like, okay, there is some more issues going on here. They weren't sure if the PVCs were causing those problems, but obviously wanted to get them fixed to keep from it making more issues.
Okay.
So you're learning all these things are wrong. You're facing heart surgery. How did that impact your faith at the time? What were you kind of walking through with the Lord in that?
So at that time, I felt like my faith in the Lord was strong. Like I was good, like we were walking through this together. I felt very confident in every hand that he put, like he showed me his favor in all of it and just was like, here, I have another person. This is another person that's going to care for you. And I just felt like it was all orchestrated by him.
Yeah.
And I was good. As tough it was to hear those things.
Yeah.
I was really just leaning into him with it all.
So you have your surgery, right? They do that first surgery.
Yep, June.
And they do the ablations. Is that what it's called? Am I saying that right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
We know nothing.
And then what? So this is kind of the moment that has built to like, okay, I just have to get in for surgery. So you had to wait from January to June to even get that surgery, which is long.
That was really difficult.
Yeah.
It was, and I kept getting worse and worse.
Well, and that had to be a little, so in January when you're like, okay, we'll do this surgery and that'll fix it. And that feels like, oh, the Lord has orchestrated everything and this is going to be great. And then you have to wait 6 months as your health declines further. That had to be kind of discouraging.
It was discouraging. I think because the doctor told me a couple of months, maybe 3. When somebody tells you something like that, you put that in your brain.
Yeah, you're like, I just have to make it this far.
Yep, I just have to get 2 to 3 months. That's it. And then get the call. It's going to be June. And I'm like, have you lost your mind? Like, I can't make it 6 months.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like I'm losing everything in my life. Little did you look at the trial that you're in so much right there that it's a vapor. It's such a small little glimpse of time, but it's all I could focus
When
on.
you're in
That
it, yeah.
Yeah.
And so I was just like, okay, it's gonna be fine. 6 months is gonna fly by. And then I was looking at it like a blessing because then I'm like, the kids are still in school. They'll be out of school. They can help me at home. Like, that will be good because I'll have restrictions after. So I was like, you know what? That'll actually be better. Mike won't have to take so much time off work. It'll be good. So once we got wrapped around that, we were okay.
Yeah.
But we knew that there could be other issues to where it could lead to open heart surgery.
Okay.
So we knew that in the back of our brain going, okay, it's summer. We have other people that can help, if that was to be the case. So June felt good after.
After a little
get
mental
your mind right,
adjustment,
yeah.
but then come to terms with it. And sometimes trials like that where you kind of get knocked off balance and then you're like, okay, it's going to be fine. Okay, it's going to be fine. Okay, it's going to be fine. And you just kind of like readjust. But sometimes there's a moment where you've readjusted so many times that it's like, okay,
Is it?
I'm not sure if this is fine.
Yeah.
Okay, so June is the golden moment when hopefully everything's going to be fixed.
It's going to be a great day.
Great day. Okay, so tell us.
It was a great day until 2 hours after surgery. The PVCs were back.
Wow.
And
The same amount.
not to the same amount. Like, I was like, the first one, I went, like, oh no. And then I felt another one, and I remember looking at my mom like, I'm going to freak out right now. Like, I was like...
You're still in the hospital.
I'm still in the hospital because I spent the night. So I was like, this is ridiculous.
Yeah.
That's
and
crazy.
so I was like, okay. So then, they came in, and the next day they reassured me, like, it can take 3 to 4 months for them to die off. Like, they can continue.
Okay.
Like, once the callus, grows over, it can help kill them. And I was like, okay, that's not terrible then. And they weren't bad. I was like, okay, if they're like this, I can live with this.
Yeah.
Like, so left the hospital the next week. It was all downhill. That was a Saturday I left the hospital. By Monday, I was regretting my life choices because they had gotten like way worse.
Really?
Like,
Than initially?
Before then I went into surgery, and I was like, what is happening? I mean, I have my watch, and so the doctor would tell me, like, record it. Are you sure they're that bad? And I would just record it one after another. My heart, I would sit there, and it would just race. And then it would, like, stop. And then it would, like, race. And I'm like, I feel like a lunatic because you just don't know. You're lightheaded. You feel sick. You're, like, constantly, like...
I mean, it's like you're doing a hard workout is like how your heart is responding, right?
Oh, yeah. And you just feel exhausted, and you're, like... you would go to, like, walk, and you're like, oh, my gosh, like, I can't even process this right now. So it's all you wanted to do was go back to sleep.
Yeah.
Because your body just felt like it just is exhausted from the roller coaster it's on.
Yeah.
So they ended up having me wear a heart monitor, and they got the results back, and my PVC burden almost tripled
Wow. Post-surgery.
after surgery.
Whoa.
Wow.
So what did they say to that then? Well, you're
Yeah.
in the room and you're getting you're obviously feeling really horrible, and they're like, you're not crazy. It is worse.
Right, yeah. Yeah, I was at home, and I'm pretty sure, like, my doctor probably thought the surgeon probably was like, she's a little crazy.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure.
The meds kind of.
Yeah, they're really messing
Those
with her.
post-op meds.
And then, but I think there's nothing to deny.
Yeah.
Yeah. we have
When
the data.
the monitor, I wore it for an entire week. You can't deny, like, what's happening. Like, my sleep schedule was so off because it would wake me up in the middle of the night. I wasn't able to even go to sleep until 2 o'clock in the morning. I felt like I was a hot mess.
So obviously you had been looking forward to the surgery. You think it's going to fix everything, and now it's worse. So where was your... Like, what was your head like? What was your faith like in the midst of all that? Like, God, this was supposed to... Did you feel like it was getting shaken a little bit? Did you still feel like he has a plan? How are you kind of feeling in that?
I was hopeful at that point in time.
Which is amazing.
Yeah.
Praise the Lord.
I was still hopeful at that point. But as the weeks crawled on, and it's summer, the kids want to do things. They want to go. They want to have fun with friends. They want to do these things. And on top of it, I'm trying to work. And I'm going, I can't really even do that well.
Yeah.
I can't even really be a mom well. I can't really be a wife well. It's hard enough to, like, try to keep a house clean or whatever. And you're like, I am, like, hardly keeping myself together. So, yeah, like, they decided surgery was going to have to happen again.
What was the second surgery? How was that going to be different from the first surgery?
So I didn't know it at the time. He had said that basically that he'd be more aggressive.
Okay.
Obviously it's hard to be aggressive with your heart, right?
Yeah,
So
wow.
he's like, the first time he's like, you just have to, it can happen that you might have to go in for the second time, which he had told us that.
Yeah.
But it was kind of like, I'm sure it'll be fine.
Yeah.
You know?
Not me.
That's 1%.
Right.
So it's like one of those things where you just think to yourself, like, I guess, let's do it. I have to get out of
Something.
this.
Do something,
This is
yeah.
like, this is unbearable.
So it essentially was a similar operation
Yeah.
a second time.
Yep.
Okay.
So then it was the end of July, and it was such a define moment for me, at least, because it was Fair Week. My kids show at Fair.
Okay. So some people might not know what that means. So
Yeah, I can't take that for granted. Sorry. So my kids show pigs at Fair.
Okay.
So we raise them at home. They also have chickens, meat, birds. So they raise them, sell them, they show them. For meat, they sell them in the auction.
But that's a big week, right? It's a huge commitment.
It's
like a lot of
huge,
time.
Yeah. It's huge. On top of it, I'm swine superintendent, so like I am in charge of the whole entire.
That's so great. Do you
I
have a
love
hat?
the name of that.
Is that like I'm swine,
I'm the swine
superintendent?
Actually, no. Actually, I don't know if our shirt says that or not.
They should.
They should. Yes.
I love it.
So you have extra responsibilities besides just getting your kids and their animals and all the things and physically being present.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
that's a lot.
Yeah. So, we're in charge of like tagging and everything. So like bringing animals into Fair, like it is
It's a physical. It seems like it would be a physically demanding job sometimes. Getting animals in.
It can be. Fortunately, I have a lot of wonderful helpers there, a lot of volunteers, parents and stuff. So it doesn't all solely fall on my shoulders. But it's a large undertaking when you're trying to be responsible for 200 plus pigs.
Yeah.
So, having that in the back of my head, I get the call on Monday of Fair. So first day of Fair. And I was I think everyone kind of could tell I was not quite right, but especially my family. But I was like, just, you put the good face
Yeah.
on.
Buck up and do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we ended up getting that call, and the lady says to me, I can get you in the end of December.
Wow.
And I immediately lost it. I was like, God, I don't know what you want from me anymore.
Wow.
Like I have walked through everything that you told me to do, and I have nothing.
Yeah.
So I remember calling Mike and going, I don't even know what's expected of me anymore. And he was like, he said all the right things and, told me that God was still faithful. Like he's still here, like said everything a wonderful, godly man should say. And I was like, I'm sure.
Right.
I just don't feel that way right now.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I mean, what else do you do other than you don't want to walk out of the motorhome and go, hey, guys,
Yeah.
like, what a killjoy.
Yeah.
And so I just picked myself up and, I was like, nope, we're going to proceed on because I have family that are very active and involved in Fair. And I was like, they don't need to deal with this either. And we're just going to pretend like this doesn't exist right now and stuff it in a little box.
Stays there really well usually.
Yeah.
That usually works
Like,
great.
Doesn't come out in any other ways.
Yeah.
Super healthy.
Very.
So you get through Fair, but then you have to go home and you deal with the fact that you're almost another 6 months away from surgery. Your PVCs have tripled. Where
Yeah.
are you at now?
I basically became pretty annoying to the nurses. I couldn't not. I was in my head going, I've been doing this for over a month right now, and I feel like I'm losing my ever-loving mind. Like, my children are watching me go, Mom, are you okay? Daily. Like, it is so painful. Like, I don't want them to see that. As much as you want to shield them. And, it's like you even have your husband that's been with you for 18 years go, I've never seen you this. Like I know what he's saying in his head. He doesn't have to say it. His concern on his face says it. So, so we ended up after I think they could tell, like, I'm being serious. You need to do something now.
Yeah.
And so they had put a few dates out there, like possibly. And I said, I don't even care. Just call me the day before. I don't care when it is. I will do whatever it takes. Mm-hmm. And so they ended up landing on October 17th.
Okay. So how did you feel, like, how's your faith? You know, sometimes it's funny, I think maybe even, I don't know, as women, you talk about being a mom to your kids, feeling like you have to put on a good face. Why do you think we do that?
Pride.
Okay.
Pride. I think the world tells us that we have to look good. Mm-hmm. I think the world wants us to be cheap and doesn't want us to be vulnerable about anything. You know, we're supposed to be these strong people. That's what we're told. And it's okay to be strong. Mm-hmm. I'm having to learn the hard lesson. You know, even I'm not a very vulnerable person. Like, I don't like to discuss. Mm-hmm. I don't like to talk about it.
Yeah.
Because that makes you, it doesn't feel natural at times, you know? Yeah. And that's what God calls us all to. So for us to feel like that, it's because I think that's what Satan wants to creep into our brains of, no, don't. Just put on a good face and pretend like everything is okay. Mm-hmm. Because that'll fix all your problems, for sure. When you just felt deeper and more distant from God.
Mm-hmm. And I think it really robs, and like, I'm not saying like I got this figured out, I'm so vulnerable and good at it. Like I have the same, you know, feeling where you're like, okay, just, and some of it is even survival in the moment. Like you don't have time to deal with this. So
like
you're
your
just
family at the fair, like, I don't have time for this.
Yeah. But I think it's, you know, being in the church and watching people go through things, there are times that some people are very good at being open and honest and vulnerable. And what happens is the church rallies to them and serves the function that the church is supposed to serve. They catch them. They, you know, there are meals, there are gift cards, there are, you know, kids being watched and houses being cleaned or whatever the need is. Yeah. And then you have other people that just suffer in silence and never say anything. And I think we rob ourselves of the blessing of the church and of the Lord even meeting the need through the church because we're trying to do it by ourselves.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, there isn't that community that should be there that you want to, you know, and it is. I mean, it can really, and you realize then you put a distance between you and those other fellow believers too, because, you know, we had friends, you know, some that knew, some that didn't, you know, or maybe didn't know to the extent of the trials that I was going through or, you know, and that is hard because you're like, I want to be open, but only to this level.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so you get to October 17th and you go in for the second surgery. What was that like?
I get the call. Like, we're in the, we just parked the vehicles in the parking structure, and I get a call saying, hey, you here? Like, can you come on in? The doctor's done with his last surgery. Yep, I'm in here. We'll walk right in. Okay, perfect. I literally was escorted back, prepped, like the doctor was trying to come in as I'm trying to get undressed to put my gown on. That's how
they were ready.
It was time.
They were ready. And I was like, this is way too fast. I'm like, I need time. Like, give me a minute, you know? And so it was like, I had IVs. I mean, it was like, boom, like we were getting ready, and I'm like, this is really fast, guys. Like, and so they're talking about wheeling me back, and I'm like, I haven't seen my husband or my parents. Like,
give me a second. I'm having heart surgery here. Just give me a second.
Like, give me a second. Like, and I got the anesthesiologist. He's talking to me, and I got a lady that's doing this, and they're all asking me questions. Obviously, it was all God's plan. I didn't know it at that time. But I think he did it so I didn't have time to really think. I didn't have time to process. The anesthesiologist says to me, so you do know with this surgery, you're not going to have any anesthesia. And I was like, yeah, I'll be like the last one. And he's like, no, the last one you had a very mild sedation. It's kind of like you got a little buzz going on. That's why you remembered it last time. And I'm like, oh. And then I get directed by, you know, the nurse saying something else. Then before you know it, I'm like going, we need
Wait,
to come
what
back
did
to
he
that.
say?
Yeah, like, I didn't really have time to process what he said.
Right.
And I was like, I'm sure I'll be fine, you know, like.
I don't know what they're doing. I'm in a hospital. It's fine. This is normal.
Lindsey, that is so crazy. I can't.
Yeah. I've had many surgeries. Trust me, if somebody else would have told me that, I'm going to go in and take your gallbladder out without any anesthesia, I would have been like, check again.
So,
Yeah.
and the purpose of that was.
So your PVCs get affected once you're under anesthesia. It
They
can
slow
kind of
down
like,
or-
yep, it can kind of make them actually stop.
Okay.
Or like dormant.
So they can't see them
So-
to fix them.
Correct.
Okay.
So
Still, in my mind, if they said that to me, I would still be like, okay, not anesthesia, but you're obviously giving me something because we're about to do surgery.
Well, I would pass out, so.
I'm kidding. But you know, like in your mind, I don't know,
Yeah,
like you
because
said, like I don't know if I
surely-
would process all the way.
Yeah,
Like no anesthesia
just-
means no anesthesia, no
Yeah.
painkillers, no, you know.
yeah, no.
I'd be like, okay, so no IV. I don't know if I would think nothing. That is crazy.
I just can't get over it. But
Yeah.
So you go back to heart surgery with literally nothing. You're just like this.
Yeah, I mean, I have IVs in.
But that's like what, like a
Hydration
saline drape
from-
or
So
something?
I had one that, yep, they were hydrating me with. The
Okay,
other one,
So you have extra water in your system.
cool.
yeah,
That's
which
helpful.
I also knew after surgery I would have to lay flat on my back for 2 hours. So I was like thinking, you're pumping me full of fluids. And who likes to be catheterized knowing you're going to come out of surgery?
Something bad's
Like, I
happening.
was like, this is just great.
Oh my
Many
gosh.
problems. Okay. Wow, that's wild.
Yeah. So I go back, and of course, like, I don't. So Mike comes back, my parents come back, and a friend came down as well. And so they're all, see you later, you know, like, love you, blah, 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 hugs, kisses. Like, literally, they're wheeling me out of the room. That's how, like, fast this is. And I'm like, yep, okay, bye guys. We're gonna go play with some knives and some puncture tools. And the two ladies that are there, they're like, oh my gosh, did you just say that? And then they started laughing. She goes, that is terrible. And I'm like, we gotta lighten it up. I mean, we're kind of like, I'm going back in here. I'm not really, you guys just threw out some things that, you know, I wasn't really ready for. But I was still, like, had last surgery in my brain.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? If the ports were the worst part going in, which are the catheters that go in through your groin, they were painful last time, but they weren't, like, you know, terrible, obviously. Knowing now, it's because I had a little...
You were sedated, yeah.
A little
something.
going on. So, yeah, so we went in this time, and they take and they put these big monitor pads on you. So basically, you know, monitoring so they can get a 3D image of your heart. So they're about as big as your hand. So they're all over. Plus they have another monitor to be able to do EKGs. They got all these wires and stuff. And on top of it, you know, once you've had kids, you're kind of, well, I mean, they just don't apparently, and you shouldn't care either, I guess. Because
It's easier when you're sedated or out cold.
Oh, for sure. Like, everybody's just going to see your entire body. Yeah. The whole front of you is just open and exposed.
Talk about being
here
vulnerability the Lord's working on.
Yep. I was like, I don't exactly remember all this last time. I went to this level, I guess.
Wow.
So, and then all of a sudden, they're like, oh, put your arm right here, and then we're going to make this really nice and comfy, and we're going to put your arm here, and before you know it, I'm getting, like, my hand cinched down here, and my hand cinched down here, and my legs, and I was like...
It's like a torture chamber.
I was like, okay. I'm like, you guys realize, like, I won't move. Like, just don't. Like, it makes you feel very restricted.
Yeah.
So I'm like, what if I have to itch my nose? So then they put, like, oxygen in my nose, all this stuff. So I'm, like, going, okay, like, you're at the most vulnerable state of your life. You are now, I've got one over my abdomen, over my thighs, so you're not moving. And I'm like, well, this is weird. You know, so they start going, and the doctor just totally comes and rips my sheet off me for the rest and puts a little towel over my body there. And he starts prepping right at your groin sites to do the puncture. And that's what they call it, is a puncture site, because there is no incision. incisions used with a knife or X-Acto or whatever they call it. So, yeah, he numbed me up with some local in those areas, and I was like, that hurts. Like, and he's like, I know, I'm sorry. Once I get down to the first layer of tissue, I'll keep going slowly down through your layers. And I'm like, okay. So he does that on, so it's like really the first initial, I would say, down hurts, to get that poke. And then I'm like, he's like, you'll be okay. So I'm like well,
easy for you to say.
I was like, I remember something happening right now. And they're like, yeah, they put you on a little bit of local last time when I was putting the ports in. And I'm like, oh, so that's what we're missing. Like, and so I'm like, I said, so I'm not going to have anything like to put these in. And he's like, nope, I can't afford to have it in your body because your PVCs are going to be reacting to it. And I'm like, oh, understandable. Then I was like, oh, on board. Yeah, no problem. Do what you got to do, man.
Fix these things.
And so it was dumb because I was like, yeah, okay, perfect.
Ignorance is really a good thing at that moment.
Yeah, at that moment it was. And the lady nurse anesthesiologist, they're like, oh, we'll walk you through it. We'll coach you through it. And I'm like, what am I going to get coached through? Kind of. And all of a sudden, they all communicate with headsets on. And so I've got like a nurse over here. They've got an observatory room, and that's like glass looking out. And so I can see it all. I can see the big screen that looks like a big TV screen. And I can now see my heart, and they're wrapping my heart around. So like you can see like all around my heart. And I'm like, that is so cool. He starts putting the catheters in to like the puncture. Like they look like a straw is what they said. And oh my word. I literally could have like levitated off of the bed. And I had to ask him to stop. I'm like, I need more. I'm like, I don't know. It feels like you're ripping all of my tissues.
Oh.
I'm like, I cannot, I don't even know how to even, I would rather have more children than this. So he just said, he gave me more local on that side. And it was kind of like, he did a great job. This is no discredit to the doctor at all because he did his job.
Yeah.
He did what he was set to go in there and do. But it was horrible. So just.
How long did that last, the surgery?
4 hours.
No way, Lindsey. Was it painful the whole time?
Yeah, it was pretty uncomfortable. There was one period of time after he put the ports in. And I was just bawling my eyes out, just praying, like, God, like, I know you're not going to take away the pain, but help me mentally.
Yeah.
Like, I just felt like I was already being spent. And I was just like, I guess if this is what I have to go through, I guess this is what I have to go through, but please make them gone after this. Yeah. And so then he inserted, like, so one side he went through both arteries and a vein. And so he just said, I don't remember which one was which, but they go up and they put the cauterizing tool up, and then a camera is up on the other side to help guide and feed and stuff like that. And they were shoving it up, and they got to a point, like, it felt like it was in my chest right here. And I remember just being like, there's something wrong. There's something wrong. I can feel them inside of me. And the anesthesiologist is like coming up, and I'm like, I have a sharp pain in my shoulder now. I'm like, I don't know what they're hitting, but there's something wrong. And she's like, she's feeling stuff, and he's like, it can be you don't know.
Right.
And usually they're not, it doesn't sound like that's like a normal, like they're usually, how my first surgery was seems more normal than what my last one was, to where they didn't do anything.
So you come through surgery. What was the result of that surgery?
Great.
It's better now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we ended up out of surgery. My PVCs are less than 1%.
Wow.
Oh, praise the Lord.
So yeah, effective wise for the surgery, it was great. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Worth it?
Yep. I don't know if I would want to do it
I just
again.
had to ask because, whoa.
Yeah, I don't, like...
Yeah.
Well, especially knowing now, it would be much harder to schedule that same procedure.
Yeah.
It would have to be really bad.
Was there... okay, well, I want to talk about a couple things. What would you say in all of this process, and I know we have more to talk about today and things, but for the sake of time, like what would you say was the lowest point in your faith in this whole journey as you walked through this?
July to the women's retreat.
And why? And what were you feeling like, and what were you struggling with and wrestling through?
I was angry.
Yeah.
I was just really mad. I was frustrated with the fact that he wasn't taking the trial away from me, and I wanted him to.
Yeah.
I think it was hard because I kept like saying to myself, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. I can do all things. And it's like, but for some reason, I didn't feel like he was giving me the strength. And I think it's just because I wasn't asking him for it. And I kind of was stepping away because I obviously wanted to take the reins into my own hands, you know? And I think we're so flawed in that way to think that our Creator that made us, that we know more than he knows. And I think that is like a really hard thing for all of us to look at and go, no, give the reins back to him. His will is better. His vantage point is so much better than ours. And he knows what he's doing. And I had to come to that terms. And it was a long time, but I'm glad God, brought me, to where I was at that point. I'm glad, I went to the women's retreat, and I even called Mike while I was there and was like, I wish I wasn't here, because he was exposing my prideful, selfish heart. And as much as I wanted it to go away, he wasn't going to take it away from me. He was just lining me up in his crosshairs to take me down, is what I kind of felt like. Like, no, you're going to surrender to me, or we're going to continue down this.
Well.
So I guess, like, for the lowest, like, yeah.
What do you feel like was the point that kind of brought you out of that low point? Like, what decisions did you make in your heart, or what did you know what I'm saying?
Like the turning point.
Yeah.
Leaving the women's retreat, and then basically reaching out and going, I guess I just need to be told where I'm wrong. And no, I guess I'm the kind of person that I'm not saying I don't want to hear it from my husband, but I think it's easier if I hear it from someone else and go, be tough on me. Tell me what I don't want to hear, because I don't want him to tell me what I don't want to hear, because I want him to be the person I can somewhat go to and go, I'm really mad right now.
Yeah.
Just listen to me.
Yeah.
Like, because I, like, humanly, fleshly, you're sitting there going, I just want this to be gone.
Yeah.
And I want to feel normal again.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. That's good. So, go ahead. Did you have something?
Well, I was going to say, like, well, no, I didn't have anything. I was trying. You go. Okay.
Well, I just was thinking, I think so often we want to be rescued from trial, and sometimes God does. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. They actually did have to go in the fire, so he didn't totally rescue them from it, but he did spare them from death. And other times he walks us through it. What would you say to somebody right now that is in a very difficult trial, doesn't see the end of it? Because there are seasons where you can't see the end of it from where you're at. You're just living in it. And what would you say to somebody that's going through something like that?
Well, I look at it as it kind of resonated with me when I kind of felt like you're in a jail cell, right? You kind of feel like you're in prison a little bit. You're kind of like, I'm a prisoner in my own body, and I can't help myself. And I think of the story of Paul and Silas, and they're in jail.
Yeah.
But they did not stop praying. They did not stop worshiping. Don't stop.
That's good.
That's exactly where Satan wants to have you. He wants to have that foothold in there, and for you to start doubting Christ and where he stands on the throne. Yeah. And I think if he can get in there, I knew down deep inside, but it was like I was still questioning.
Yeah.
But I think to myself, like, why did I question? But then I look at it now and I go, maybe this is him teaching me this lesson now because he knows what's coming in the future. And I can look back on this time and go, no, we're not going there. We're not doing that. We're not going to that low.
Yeah.
We know he has us. He's had us through this entire time.
Yeah.
That's good.
And you can look back and see those things and have those remembrances. One thing that I feel like God has kind of been teaching me lately that kind of relates, like sometimes when we're in a trial, we're like, why me? Like, why am I the one going through this? Like, I just want to be out of it, like you said. And just really realizing there's that verse that talks about, like, whom the Lord loves, he disciplines. And, like, he's refining your faith. He's drawing you closer to him. And it's almost just like a sign of his love, like the trials. Like, God cares enough about me and in building my faith and in making me more like him. And he cares enough to prepare me for what's ahead, too, like you said. Like, if we could see our suffering through that filter, that it is his love and it is his kindness, because he wants our faith to be proven of more worth than gold. And like, this is the way he does it. If we continue to choose him and believe who he is. That's good. And I think if we could, like I said, if I myself could see the trials, could see the suffering through that, and just like even thank him for it, consider it pure joy when you suffer these trials, because it is his love, and he is love. He's not out to get us. He's not, punishing us. He is drawing us to himself. And
Absolutely.
I think that's really powerful. Well, thank you so much for being with us today, Lindsey, and sharing your story. I know it's hard to be vulnerable. It is. I'm in the same boat with that. I definitely understand that. But I hope that this was an encouragement to somebody, that God is with you. He is faithful. I loved what you said, his vantage point is so much different than ours. He sees it all playing out. He sees the plan, and he's got you. So I hope that that's encouragement to you, and that you can carry that with you today. We will see you next time. But until then, walk worthy.